Hi, Willow. It's great to have you here. How is it in Canada?
It's really, really beautiful today. Strangely beautiful for October. It should be really cold right now. So appreciating it, but also honoring why that warmth is there.
Right.
hmm
And I'm so glad I'm connecting with you today to speak about womb awakening, the womb space healing, and which would help us give a lot of insight to women about sacred sexuality, how to harness their sacred feminine power. So, yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really, really important topic, and I'm really grateful to be here with you.
Yeah, I am already feeling it. It's going to be a very beautiful conversation. So, right. So, to begin with, our first question, let's straight dive into it. A little introduction about yourself and what led you, what situation, what circumstances led you to become the medicine woman.
So I am a herbalist, a home birth doula, and a womb wellness coach.
Mhm.
So, like most people who go into the holistic and mystical world, it comes from a place of personal woundings and traumas and pains that we're experiencing. So, my journey started with a lot of physical ailments that, the medical system wasn't giving me answers to, which led me down the journey of just learning all different types of holistic medicines. And
Mhm.
then kind of the womb work came from having three miscarriages consecutively.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and when I went to the doctors, terrified that I was going to lose the third baby, they couldn't really do anything for me. So that's when I
Mhm.
started to seek other answers and deeper work within the womb. And after that third miscarriage, I had found my doula training. And in that doula training, there's a lot of focus around womb healing and really connecting with that space and helping us heal and release those traumas that we carry.
Mhm.
So that led me down this really beautiful path. And just the way that life and the universe is growing, I can see everything in my life has led me to this moment of really helping the reclamation of sacred feminine alchemy, our connection with the earth and the moon and our wombs. Hence my business name Earth Moon Womb.
And how long it's been you're into this work?
The womb work has been about 4 years now.
Mhm.
Plant medicines has been about 10 years. And I'm almost 33 now, and I started looking into holistic stuff around the age of 20. So it's been
Okay.
a good while, and it's just an ever growing journey that
Mhm.
you really just kind of follow wherever you're called to.
And I'm sorry I missed the number of years that you actually started working on this. Could you come again on that?
The womb stuff would be about 4 years.
Oh, yes. Okay. Mhm. And other than that, what other services do you offer in this sacred
So
sexuality work? Yeah.
Yeah, so I offer like a few different self-paced things. I
Mhm.
have like a collection of ebooks for people that are, really easily accessed, don't require a whole lot of money, that allow women to connect with their cycles,
Mhm.
take care
Okay.
of their wounds, and connect with plant medicines.
Mhm.
And then there's kind of the next level up, which is the wise womb. So this again is a self-paced program, but it's much bigger. It helps you go a lot deeper. There's modules, practices, guides, a lot of different things to really help you reconnect with our cycles and how to track them, how to flow with each phase, how to really pull out the power that we contain within our wombs and to move past the trauma and the wounds that we carry from that. So that's like a really great program. And then I also work one on one with womb keepers for 3 to 6 months at a time, for
Hmm.
those that really want to dive deep into it and want the support to really go into their wombs and really be fully awakened and standing in their power.
Wow. And I think most of the um, Canadian women entrepreneurs are on the forefront when it comes to all the natural holistic practices. I see a great movement rising from there. Any take on that from your side? Because so many so far, the kind of podcasts I've seen or the kind of Instagram profiles I follow, somewhere or the other, I see it's the Canadian women leading from front.
That's comforting to hear. Honestly, I think it's really maybe because we have free medical care here that compromises the quality that we're receiving when we do go into the medical system because they
Mm,
aren't getting paid the same for it.
right.
So we're rushed through doctor's appointments and they don't really listen.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not being listened to, you're not really being cared for. So a lot of people, if they're dealing with any sort of big physical or emotional or any sort of big pain, it's not really being cared for. You're just getting a band-aid. And especially when it comes to fertility and the birth system, it's
Right.
so incredibly flawed all over North America. And women are
Mm-hmm.
completely stripped of their rights and their freedoms and their knowledge of how to birth their own babies. And, they're filled with things like fear, so heavily filled with fear around birthing their babies, which is their natural ability and right to do. So I think, the more they go into the medical system, the more traumas come from that, the
Right.
more
Yeah,
the more we seek other answers that feel more true to us.
absolutely. And I think the energetics of it, could you want to touch a little on that, like how the energetics of the medical system affects the natural births and the womb of a woman.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the whole medical system was created by men. When it was developed, the medicines, the drugs, the education, it was all run by men before women were allowed to go to school and to be educated in this.
Absolutely. All
Women
over
were
the
stripped
world.
of
Yeah.
rights. Yeah. And because of that, they're looking very narrow minded. They're not understanding the concept that men and women are very different or different races are very different. Like everybody has their own individuality that deserves to be acknowledged, but they're going by one very textbook idea and concept of what a healthy person should be, which is very flawed. And it also leaves out the entire understanding of our wombs and our cycles and our hormones and what that's supposed to be and what it's supposed to feel like. And
Mm.
because of their misguidings and misunderstandings of what it is, their whole disconnection from it, we had pills forced on us and our wombs burned and cut out and just so many terrible medical advances that just harmed women all around the
That hurt.
world. It really
Mm.
just it traumatized us, and we carry those things in ourselves every time we birth our next child and they birth the next child, and the women are passed along through generations. We're carrying the traumas from everyone before us, and because of that, our wombs just continue to shut down and be more terrified and afraid and more numb, especially things like the birth control pill and IUDs. Those really numb our connection to our natural waves and rhythms and wild emotions, which we're supposed to have. We're not supposed to be as neutral as the masculine, right? Like
Mm.
they tend to go in little waves.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
supposed to go way up and way down,
Yeah.
and that's healthy. That doesn't make us crazy. That's who we're supposed to be.
Absolutely. Of course. Yeah. Mm. Quite an, yeah, that's quite insightful. Right. Let's move to our second question. Mm. Brief her story on how women have been stripped off from their mystical, magical powers for centuries, about the witch hunt, the mass killing that happened in Europe and other parts of the world, and the generational trauma that collective women hold all over the earth. So, how is the energetics of Earth being affected as a whole?
So
Yeah.
I really want to start by saying that to dive into this portion, like even just, feeling the question coming, my body gets tingly and warm and scared almost because there's so much pain carried in this that
I totally resonate with you.
it's so hard for us to process because it's been thousands and thousands of years that we're carrying this, and it hurts. So
It's
as
heavy.
we dive into her story, let us remember to connect with our hearts and our wombs and just try and feel the roots of our spine down into the earth so that we can be held and grounded in this space. So that
Yeah.
as we're feeling this pain come up, we can let it go.
Sure.
And
Okay.
a very important point to understand is that even though this period of time that I'm about to share in us feels so wrong and so painful, ultimately, on the grand scheme of things and life and the universe and that natural flow, it had and has its purpose, just as everything does, no matter how great or bad it is perceived, everything has a purpose.
Mhm.
So we may not know it yet, but having that little bit of compassion to understand that there's something there to this, that, part of me thinks that it's to help fuel our fire again, maybe.
Right.
So we call it HerStory because history is mostly written by men and leaders and very selective of what is being shared depending on who is the leader. So
Mhm.
HerStory shares the side that's been hidden, that hasn't been taught in school. So there's significant evidence that at the dawn of humanity, people served a goddess culture and belief system. So they found, carvings and engravings and pictures and, old manuscripts and stuff like that that show the evidence of worshiping the goddess. There's a lot of paintings of the feminine body with huge focus on the vulva and the breasts and the belly, all of the very feminine attributes.
Mhm.
Um,
Right.
and they perceived the goddess as the organizing principle of the universe. She embodied all forces of life, death, and rebirth, just as our cycles do. She was worshipped as the life force of all existence. And in such, people honored the natural cyclical rhythm of the moon and our wombs. Our
Right.
calendar used to be 13 moons instead of 12 months. And, our
Mhm.
month, that's how we counted
Yeah, the
time, was
ancient.
by the cycles.
Yes. Right.
Um, and as well as that, everybody had a deep connection to plants, animals, spirit, and magic. It wasn't just women, but it was everyone. All of humanity followed this, and in this time, menstrual blood was known for its healing and magical powers. Sexual energy was sacred and celebrated. Women naturally worked with plants, and they were the healers and the priestesses and the leaders. They had rights to land and to ownership, and they passed on names and traditions. And, women were the ones that were really honored. in
Yeah.
generations and families and communities.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was around 3000 BC there began the shift where waves of nomadic warlike people who worship Father God began to invade and conquer and destroy the people of the goddess culture. This is where they raped, slaughtered, pillaged, burned, enslaved, exploited, and exiled. The values and beliefs were forcefully suppressed. Women were stripped of their leadership positions and disempowered whenever they showed signs of their sexuality, their intelligence, and their self-sufficiency, essentially their feminine power.
Mm-hmm.
This war on the goddess culture continued for thousands of years with extremely harsh measures through all aspects of life. They attacked personal, emotional, political, legal, educational, religious, you named it. They destroyed it all with
Also,
absolutely disgusting force. And in that, everything of the goddess culture was destroyed and replaced by the single father god. Or in other places, like I believe in India, you still have a whole variety of gods, but there's huge emphasis on the masculine figures.
tell me about it.
Yeah.
And
um,
somewhere, yeah, I think somewhere I try to follow less of rituals and prefer more of spirituality because of, and related to this, I want to share one instance where I have a Durga Devi temple in my area. But then a situation happened where I asked the committee of that temple, like, why is the name changed from Devi Durga to Sri Mahalakshmi? Why you have changed it? Whereas that was the original name. So then the men, two or three men, they were like, one of them took the lead, and he said to me, Mahalakshmi is more of a soft goddess. And that somewhere, it infuriated me, and I decided, okay, these people are not respecting the rage and the power of Durga. And
hmm,
without her, without courage, you cannot go ahead. And I think that was the last time I stopped going to that temple because I'm pretty, I'm pretty rebel in that case. So yeah, a lot has to change in India, big time. People have to give attention to detail and see what is actually happening. So
hmm.
in a way, they anyway disrespected and they were fearful about the Durga power which comes, right? And it's more powerful than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that really was it when these people that worship the Father God came in, they attacked because they were terrified of the power that came from the strong wild feminine. They're fierce and they're strong and they're comfortable in darkness and in light. The Father God didn't have that same flexibility. It was softer. And it didn't have a deep inner standing of that variety and capacity of power.
Mm.
So, a bit more to this HerStory. So, the Inquisition, it was known as, from the 12th to 17th century, was essentially organized terrorism by the Roman Catholic Church. Anyone who continued to remember, practice, pass on the ways of what was called the old religion, the goddess culture, were to be eliminated. This was the time where the mass murder and public burning of witches happened. And witches were the healers and the midwives and the wizards and all people who were commonly known as wise women and wise men.
Mm.
And
Mm.
through this whole demise of the goddess culture, we lost our practice of cyclical rhythm naturally in flow with the moon in our wombs. We lost the practice of
Mhm.
plant medicines, and they started to turn those into pharmaceuticals instead
Yeah,
of natural.
commercializing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
We lost healing through motherly ways. We lost our rights and powers to birth naturally. We lost our sacred sister circles, our red tents and our moon lodges, and our ability to gather together where we would practice our magic and share our wisdom and, guide our younger women and celebrate our crone women. Those things were all taken away because those were sources of power. Our dates of celebrating earth, life, and death were all renamed under the Father God and manipulated by the church. For
Mm,
example, like Halloween and Christmas, those were really sacred times for the feminine culture. Originally, Christmas was the solstice, and Halloween was Samhain. Those are really, really potent times for the medicine people and the wise men and women. But and those again were all taken away, and we lost everything that we were, all of our sacredness, all of our power, all of our natural primal state of being was suppressed and harshly shamed whenever it appeared, because it was, is, and always will be who we are. We are natural, wild, primal beings. And this whole thing didn't just affect women either, it affected all people. Men were even more harshly shamed when they showed signs of sensitivity or motherly essence. This
yes.
extreme disconnect from natural essence caused all people to experience a sense of loss and confusion in epic proportions. And, then blood was shed through war and fight instead of you giving our menstrual blood back to the earth. And, we lost our connection to the earth and the plants and the animals, and our home was not seen as sacred anymore. And, so then it was easily destroyed and torn apart and extracted, and, just without any sort of concern of the repercussions. And, you know, the
Yeah.
patriarchal growth of humanity continued to neglect and ignore all sense of compassion towards the great picture of life, and just followed greed and power and ego and fear. And this really heartbreaking war on the goddess culture, in
Right.
my opinion, led to everything that hurts our planet and humanity to this day. Every state of disease and imbalance and pain we witness and experience across our planet, and as people, are ripples of this war. Our the the climate crisis that we're experiencing is because of that. Yeah.
And and about the goddess culture, yes, Shakta Dharma, the Shaktism, the feminine tradition in India also. We hardly find books on that. But on Shakta Dharma, UK, US, Canada, people from there have written books on these. I mean, so much has been lost. It aches my heart that that particular Shakta tradition is kind of fizzled out. Tantra is elevating and coming up, but that particular tradition is not spoken about. And yeah, so I pretty much strike this conversation on how we can get that back up uh, in my classes, in my yoga classes. So yeah, a lot is
Mhm.
to be done. We need all women to get on board
Yes.
to
Yeah.
resurrect the whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah. And the men too. We need to hold space
yes,
for our men to go through that healing as
yeah.
well. And, because they were scared out of it just as harshly as we were, if not more, because they didn't have that deep inner standing that we did. We knew that no matter how hard they suppressed us, we still have it in us.
And it's
Men,
such
it
a
was taken away.
beauty, right? It's such a
Hmm.
beauty, and what wisdom in women. I think hats off to us because even at this point of time, when the scale is tipping towards extreme feminine side, we I think I have seen this in last 2 years. Women coaches, the female coaches are still so balanced to say that, okay, let's consider the men also. While actually they should be bearing the brunt because so much has been done to us. But
Hmm.
the level of balance and wisdom that women carry, and we are thinking on integrating it. Otherwise, it would have swinged only towards the feminine side.
Yeah.
I think hats off to us for that.
Yes, absolutely. That's that motherly essence. We love all. We love
Yeah,
all,
yeah,
no matter how hard the wounding is. And we have that gift of seeing the greater picture.
absolutely. I think we seriously deserve crowns. All
Mhm.
of us.
Mhm.
Wow, this is amazing. So, yeah, this link is valid for another 5 minutes, and then we can go for the next link. Okay, before that, our third question: which archetypes of goddesses we can seek support from to imbibe, and location on earth which have this powerful feminine healing powers and wisdom? And you recommend which of these locations that women should visit often?
So I think the first location we should always look to is our own wombs. I think
Mm,
within our wombs we carry absolutely everything. We carry all the history, all the goddesses, everything is within us. It's never been lost.
I'm
So
getting
the
chills as you say it.
yeah, so I mean, of course, there's goddess archetypes and different places and beings out there that can guide us, but our best source of our own truth and our own guidance is within us. So the more we can connect with our wombs and our cycles and our blood and our bodies and our hearts and that inner voice within us, that will then lead us to the goddesses and the places and the archetypes that we need at that time. Um, and
Mhm.
any for me it's mother earth, it's being in nature and being with the
Right.
plants and interacting in that way. That's what really gets me grounded and into my body and into that wisdom. But for other people it may be the water or the mountains,
Mhm.
or diving into a cave. All of those things are sacred feminine essence because our whole planet is the mother
Female
goddess.
in nature. Yeah.
Mhm. And there is places like the Acropolis and Stonehenge and Machu Picchu, and those were originally goddess culture places from way back when. So great places to go, but the history is still covered up there.
Mhm.
But they haven't been destroyed, so we can still feel the original essence if we're open to it. Or really anything that brings you into the womb of the earth, like caves and cenotes and labyrinths and bodies of water or wild old growth forests. All of those things that really help us connect with
Mhm.
yeah, it's yeah, where we should
And
go.
I think most of the European places also have this essence, right? Um, what what you say on that point? Most of the
Yeah,
northern hemisphere.
yeah, everywhere in the world you can find places that worship the goddess culture, and you can find places that still stand and new ones that are coming up.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's really ultimately it's about intention and wanting that connection.
Mhm. Right. Okay. All right. So we will take a break here and move to the next link so that we can continue with our conversation.